What is up, Derek? 13 Serious Engineering here, and today we are going to be continuing our Symfony API pattern video series. And we installed a bunch of stuff last time, everything we need for kind of the Symfony API framework, but we forgot one thing, which we're going to want, which is Symfony UID component, which is going to allow us to use UUIDs, and not going to get too into the weeds on why you'd want to use a UUID versus a regular ID or a ULID or anything. But if you have questions about that, you can always feel free to ask. There's more data you can encode in a UUID than just an integer, and you don't do auto increment, which is super helpful for database performance and for inserts. And if you want to know more about that, you should just Google auto increment hell. Generally, it's not a good concept. Maybe in college or whatever, that was like something you learned, but it's like don't do auto increment integers. So anyways, we're going to continue with our pattern. We have post planets, create planets, but we need to actually make the planet. So we installed the maker bundle last time, so we can do Symfony console make entity, and this is going to be a planet, and we're going to give it a name, string, yes, not null, mass. I think that's a good thing to have. That's going to be a decimal. Yes, 2 decimal points. We don't really like need anything for this. It's not the point. The point is like just you know, how to like just the pattern. What other type of data? Like maybe description? Sure. Text, and we're gonna say, yeah, that's nullable because you don't have to have one. Cool. And then before we go and actually make the migration, this is, I think there's a way in Doctrine where you can go and like make it automatically use a UUID, but I don't know how to do that. So it's still an int. We got to fix that. And there is a way to do this. It shows you in the docs here about how you should use a UUID with Doctrine. I think it's in this one. Maybe it's a different one. Yeah. So this is basically what you're supposed to do is these attributes. These attributes give us the ability to use a UUID. Of course, we have to fix all these as well. Let's see. Get ID. And this is being auto-generated, so we won't have to set it, which is great. Doctrine UUID generator. I don't know how to configure that automatically. If anyone knows, definitely let me know. I bet there's a config thing you can use for this somewhere. If I had to guess, I just don't know where it is. I've just always set that up manually, I guess. Cool. Pretty sure that's done. We can make our migration. And we don't have Docker running, of course. Do I have the Docker desktop running? I don't think so. Let's do that. Just waiting for Docker to come up here. Okay. And it should build just a Postgres instance. That's all we need. But we got a repository. And the first thing that I like to do in a repository is I'm going to add save. And that's going to take a planet and also bool flush. And we're going to use this here to kind of demonstrate our next point of why we're going to do and what CQRS really ends up looking like. So this get entity manager, persists planet, and then if flush, then we do cool, just like that. And then the next thing I normally add is remove none of these are typed. Oh, that's the constructor. Just kidding. Cool. Okay. Now, when we go and do create planet, okay, this is the next thing we're going to be getting to. This won't change for CQRS, and it actually is what makes CQRS possible. But we're going to be adding two things, which we're basically going to make it so you don't have to use arrays to do anything anymore, and everything will be typed, which is a really big strength for PHP 8, 8.1, 8.2, is that you can type everything. And what we're going to be implementing is Symfony DTO. So there's this cool article here basically about using DTO. There's not much to it. It's just in Symfony 6.3 and on, and you don't really need to do anything except require this component from HTTP kernel. That's not alphabetized. That is. And then you need to make a DTO class, and I like to take it a step further. And you can do this whether it's a request payload or a query string, but I like to take it a step further, and I like to go ahead and also create like a query class to go and build out like a dynamic statement, to help with DTO and help kind of streamline the interfacing between services and repositories. But first things first, we're going to make a new directory. We're just going to call it DTO, or we can call it requests. Request is fine. It kind of makes more sense. Request, then we'll do planet. And then this one is going to be, let's see, we could do create or we could do post. I think we'll just go with create planet DTO. It's just going to be final read only. The cool thing about this being final read only is that Symfony request objects are mutable. You can change them. But we can fix that here by making this a read only class, and then it becomes immutable. Like your requests, because you're using this, are now immutable. So that's definitely really helpful. Okay, so planet DTO, we are just going to copy paste this. You need to have this validator from Symfony installed, which we got last time. And this kind of works like, I don't think you actually need this validator. Maybe you do, but I think you could probably use web Mozart assert and get like a similar effect with it. You're basically just asserting the types of this. So what are we going to pass? Well, if we go back to our planet, and this isn't namespaced right. Planet should go in there. Cool. Same with this. Very important to have all this stuff be in the same directory, same namespaces, because it definitely will get, overbearing at some point. So might as well start soon. Name, mass, and description. So for our DTO, we're gonna have, we can get rid of this, all this stuff. We can make this name, and this is all gonna be, gosh, I cannot type, I'm struggling. This is all gonna be like required stuff because it's a post, it's create. So we need all of it except description is the only thing we don't need. That's the only thing that's nullable. And I don't think we need a, we're not going to need an assertion for that. We could make it empty, but it's okay that it's null. So I'm going to leave that and see if it causes any issues. Name has to be not blank. This is our decimal, which I need also not blank, but it's going to end up being, how do I want to take this? Probably as a float, and then we're going to convert it into a decimal. And we're storing the precision because this is going to be a string. The decimal it's a string. And again, here's the beauty of CQRS is that like this stuff, if it doesn't match up, as long as it gets inserted, then that's fine. We might have to play around with this a little bit though. With the whole decimal thing. But we're going to say mass has got to be greater than 0. So we got name, description. That's it. Our database is running. We made our migration, and then now we can migrate. Migrations, migrate. Boom, there we go. Start the web server. And cool, okay. So when we go and create this, we're gonna add DTO by using an attribute, map request payload, and we're gonna have create planet DTO, and this is exactly what's going to go into our create planet function. Create planet DTO, and then we're going to do planet equals new planet set name set mass. And I think it's going to complain about this because mass is a float and it wants a string. Oh. Set description. Cool. All right, so that's all of our planet stuff. And then all we do, we're going to auto wire right here. Private planet repository. All right, cool. That is our that is, post. That's super easy. When we get into patch and everything, it will be a little more, there will be a little more to it, but basically this isn't really going to change because yes, we want to flush that. We can change it, but this is basically, we're going to get one statement out of it. So that's like the easiest way to do that. This is all like typed and mapped, which is great. There's even easier ways to kind of improve upon the whole DTO thing. But yeah, without getting super crazy into it, the next thing we're going to do, we're not going to go over query string stuff, but we will in a little. But we're going to do our get so we can query this back out. Get planet. And let's see, we are going to have the planet service, and then we're going to have UUID ID. Comes in very handy. That one. Cool. And that's going to get our planet for us as well. Now, basically, I'm just going to set up Postman really quick. I'm going to pause it, set up Postman, and then we can go through this basic implementation. And then we will take it a step further and get into actually separating these things from doctrine in our planet service. So stuff is more scalable and using a dynamic SQL query object, basically. Okay, I think I got everything working. I did change one thing. I'm just using the Symfony parameter conversion to get the entity that we want. But if we look here, we are going to, boom, create the planet Venus, and then we can go and get it by the UUID. And cool, there's Venus from the database. All right, so that's get and create. Again, just to reiterate, we're creating the planet memory, saving it to the repository, just using the doctrine, entity manager, persist and flush, blah, 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 whatever. Now, to round this out, we'd probably want to have like list, delete, put, patch, everything else, but we're just going to do patch for our kind of demonstration purposes. I'm thinking here that we probably just want to call this planet DTO. This is wrong. What I'm going to do is wrong, but that's okay. We'll go back and fix it. So this is now called planet DTO. Did that fix it here? Yes. All right, so this is normally what you would do with Symfony. It's what we're doing. We're going to have a patch ID, planet DTO, planet service, all that stuff. Then we're going to do update planet, and that's going to need not only the planet DTO, which we need to rename here, but it's also going to need the existing planet, which we have from the, whatchamacallit, from the ID, from the request parameters thing. I hate that it does this. I hate that. That is not correct. PHP code beautifier, code sniffer beautifier fixes that. We'll probably do that in this video series as well. Go through like 100% test coverage and stuff like that. Okay, so planet service. We're gonna do public update planet, of course, with our planet DTO and with our, with our planet, blah, blah, whatever. And basically, we're going to do the same thing here. This isn't really going to be any different. And you can, you can change the, you can kind of do this in the same function. In a lot of places that do Symfony like this, following their pattern, they do the create, the post and the patch, the create, the update. That it's kind of the same thing, the same function. Because you're setting all of it off the DTO or a default. So it either needs to exist in the DTO or it needs to be a default. So if this is null, and because we're doing update, we do want to actually have this be nullable. That we do want to have a different create and update one, because for create that needs to be that for patch that could be null, and for create it might not be null. So I should have just done that to initially. Oh well, you learn. Okay, there's create create planet create. I can't talk. Can't talk. Oh, cool. Okay. Update's good. Create is not good though, because the description's the only thing that can be null. We can get rid of all these assertions because this stuff could all be, it can all be null basically for create. We don't even need that. Okay, back in our controller, that one's create and that one is update. Kind of going back and forth on this, but that's fine. I think we're gonna have an issue in our, yes, have to import these. Update planet, cannot spell. Go back and just name these correctly. That's gonna bug me. Okay, well, this has been a fun use of time, just renaming things a billion times. But anyways, now we have our planet, our update planet one, and this stuff is all nullable. That's really the difference. So if things end up being null, then we would just use the existing value. Right, sometimes I forget doing everything privately getters and setters. Which honestly, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do this in Symfony with private and get and set. You can just do everything public and not use getters and setters. There's no reason why you have to do that. That is kind of the convention they follow, but you don't need to. You can just it honestly, it's like, yeah, there's some improved functionality you can have, but 99% of people don't use that functionality. They're just the auto-generated subs. So, you can just do your own thing. All right, so this is gonna do, we got Venus, we're gonna do a patch on Venus. and we're going to update this. Let's see what breaks. There we go, extremely hot temperatures. That came back. We can do a get on it just to make sure. So that was our update. So that all happened very quick. This is very easy to set up like this. This is like the standard Symfony convention for CRUD. Getting the planet here in the, I got to look up what this is called. Parameter conversion. I did look it up. That's what it is. Using parameter conversion, map entity is the attribute. And this is fetching objects from the database. So this is doing a query to get this object by ID, and it's using find basically, but it's running two queries. And Laravel and Eloquent do this as well. It's a really common thing, but we don't need to do this. There's degradation involved because you're getting something and then updating it and saving it. And so you have two actions when you really only need one. And most of the time when you do a patch or you do a create, you don't immediately need the object back. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It just depends on your use case, but a lot of times you don't. You just need a 204 with no content, that it got saved correctly, and you are going to do a get or a list or something else after that as it is. So there's no point in serializing and returning the object you just created or updated. So now we're going to take all this, and I'm just going to commit it. Just so we can kind of see our difference. Because what we're going to do next is we're going to take this stuff, and like I said, this is a fine, Symfony pattern, but we are going to we're going to change this into CQRS. We're querying an object and updating it, and the same object is what gets queried back out or returned. We're going to change that. We're going to make all this different. So let's start with update. First off, we are going to change this to just being a string UUID. We're going to change this to UUID, which you don't need to, you can leave it ID. And then update planet is going to take the planet DTO and the UUID, and then it's going to use the repository to do the update. Just going to call it an ID. We're going to make this function update planet, which we could probably we'll just call it update, I guess. It's going to take a UUID, and it's going to take an array of fields, and it's going to update them using Query Builder. Don't need to worry about DTO, but there is an extra thing that we're going to have to add. And that is going to be what a lot of people would call a we're going to make this return true or false. What a lot of people would call a query object, but it's a statement because it's an update. So we're going to make a new directory called database, and then planet, and then this is going to be, what should we call this? We'll call this update planet statement. Cool. We're going to need to do some things in there, but let's see. Well, there is a way to not do this, but I'd rather just do it like this. The simple way to do this is just be like, well, we know what's going to happen. We have to iterate through the DTO and basically see if it's not null. So we'll get to the planet statement in a bit. It's going to be a little bit cleaner, but we're going to have like name, which keep in mind, you know, this could be null. Same thing with mass. And there's a reason for that. Yep. Oh, we want to put defaults on here too. Oops, forgot to do that. All right, cool. That's what it's complaining about. Then here, we're going to do query builder. Wow, that's really unhappy. Hold on, we don't want to do this yet. Query builder equals this and update. And if you look at update, it kind of gives you like a little cheat sheet of what this should look like. So we're going to be like update planet P, and they say like not to use this alias, but you kind of don't really have a choice because it complains. And I think PHP Stan will throw an issue if you do that. Now, for each fields as field value, if the value is not null, then we're going to do query builder set field value. And the last thing we need is builder where ID ID set parameter ID and cool. There we go. And then we just return bool QB get query get result, and that will run it. And there we go. That will update everything for us. Now, a cleaner way than this array is to just pass this object in here, where we're going to have like we'd basically have, but we'd just be setting this, you know, setting the same array up here. And that is like a clean way to do that, and you probably want to do that at some point. But for us right now, just to demonstrate CQRS, this is fine, you know, not ideal, but I'm just gonna, we'll come back to that query builder stuff in a minute. But if we do this update, now what we've done is essentially this is CQRS. We have, even though we're using the same table, we're not updating that entity anymore. We're also not returning it, but we are using an object that's not the same as the object that we query. So we're separating the responsibility of, what does what. This is not a CRUD pattern anymore. New description, and we could like increase the mass or something like that. And then the name Venus, oh, wrong one. Patch, class planet is not defined. Planet P set. Update planets. Is that what it wants? Or maybe it just doesn't like this. Yep, we definitely need that P. Oh, the table. Is the table just planet? Why is this so unhappy? Hold on. I think it's this. I need to have, you need to have the actual class string for doctrine. I'm pretty sure. That's it. Expected literal got new for description. Oh, right. Here's the other thing, is that you can just remove these. They should be removed anyways if we don't want them updated. Mass is not defined. Right, because we also need p dot blah, p dot name, p dot all of this. There we go. Okay, and I didn't change that, but it returns, it should just be a 204. Oops, because this just returns a bool now, but there we go. That was a little, that was a little rough, but let's do this new description thing too. Here's the other thing we can add in. Instead of doing this, we can just do name, and then we can do in the repository, we'll just go vs printf p dot that, and then values, or field rather. There we go. Okay. Now we're actually just formatting this only in the query to the field. That's a lot better. Still not happy. That should be, why? Why? Okay, it was just a text field issue for Query Builder. When you're setting updates, you need to, there can't be spaces, so you need to set a parameter for it. It needs to be a prepared statement, basically. So that's what I'm doing. Either way, this is like kind of some cumbersome logic, which is why you probably want to abstract this into an update planet statement, which I guess we'll do at some point, but only when we finish. Okay, so we got this working now, and this is all the whole object that we're doing, and I just, here's our new, Venus stuff that we passed in. So we've separated the commands for update from the entity. So we have separation, and of course you would, from a DevOps standpoint, you'd have separate readers and writers. So these wouldn't really like touch each other, which is pretty nice. You have a big performance gain. But we can take this even a step further because we're using Create Query Builder. This is DQL that is running through doctrine. I think so we could get DQL out of all of this and look at the actual prepared DQL. Which is all this stuff. So DQL is still a layer everything is executing through, and if you want to avoid that and make it even more performance oriented, we can get rid of all of this stuff. I'm going to keep this, but we can get rid of all of this and just make it straight up SQL by using the connection, the doctrine dball connection. We can just call it connection. That's fine. I don't think this is going to auto wire. Is it? Let's see what happens. It's probably not defined. Unexpected token. Right. Okay, that's not going to work. So we might need to do container get connection. Let's see. So I don't know if this is actually the preferred way. Well, hold on. Let's see if we just get the default connection like this, but we might just need to grab it from the entity manager. Let's see if auto wiring for this works. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we can just do that instead of entity manager get connection, but we can take our connection and we can do execute statement, and we'll have SQL and we'll have params, and what we can do is use Heradoc. Oh, there we go. And we can be like update I think it's going to be lowercase, update planet P. Oh, wow, that's super annoying. Set whatever where p.id equals id, and then we'll just go params equals id, and then that will execute. And now these params is where we want to have our update SQL, basically. And we could do this all dynamically just in the update statement instead of in the repository, but let's see. How do we want to do this that makes the most sense? Obviously, description, like, yeah. And equals. I'm curious if I have the name of this right. So I just want to test it first. You could do something like that. Yeah, I don't have anything hooked up to, let's see if this executes. Relation planet does not exist. Planets. Fine, get rid of the alias. And there we go, okay. Okay, then there's our description test that we just hard coded in there. But basically, this is your way of, you know, totally separating this from now we're not even using the dequal layer. We now have a totally different, this is totally separate from doctrine now. Yes, we're using the connection from doctrine. We're using the dball connection. So we're getting our database connection in an object-oriented way in that manner, but we're not doing anything with entities. And of course, this is a little messy because we've got to do some stuff with like the update planet statement and everything. And we're going to address that in just a minute here. But now we basically have just, we don't have the fetch anymore. We're not getting anything. It's not being tracked by doctrine. And so now this has become CQRS, and the command to update things is really just this function and the DTO. The DTO is like where the data is, encoded, if you will, and then it's just getting updated through the repository. And to make this even better, we'll just be like, we'll give it a statement. What do we call that? Update planet statement. And we'll give that the update planet DTO, sure. And then we'll make this take statement, and we'll make this go update planet statement, and we'll be like, array merge with our define params and statement params. Cool. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. And then the next thing we're going to do is, let's see, what should we call this? Like query maybe. But you can totally make it look like that. So, construct, we're going to have, what am I really passing the constructor in here? We're passing it the DTO. So update planet DTO, and then let's do public query. Yeah. We need this to be a string. Public array params, and we're gonna go like, we might need to do a reflection for all the pieces of the DTO, but let's see. Or we could use props, I guess. Because we want to be able to change this and have it not affect anything. That's true object-oriented programming. Iterate fields of class, object iteration. I guess we could just do that as props. Let's see what happens. As field, how do they do it in the PHP docs? Field, value, if, same thing as we kind of did before. If value isn't null, then we're going to do params. The next index is going to be, or even better, we're going to set this like field value. That will work because now we have an associative array, and that's what we need for our query builder. And then the other thing we need is the query string. So we need to just concatenate all of it to be like, so we're going to set blah, blah, whatever. Query actually, we could just go and iterate this later. Or we could explode it. I don't know. What's the best way to do this? I'm going to actually do this as an array and then implode it with commas. Set is just an empty array. And then we'll be like, the next value for set is going to be, we have set whatever %s equals, oh, tried to take a, how do I get out of this? I got like a screenshot thing. That was annoying. Okay. So then we just have like set field equals value. And then at the end, we just go query equals implode set. And it should do it with a comma as a default value, right? Separator. All right, cool. That should basically be it. I might want to think about this. There's like some cleaner ways to do this, but now we have this update planet statement, and that's the only thing that goes into our repository. And we can also kind of adapt these things so that update and create are like the same thing, because you'd want to do a raw query for that as well. But let's just dump out the SQL and see what happens. And we're not gonna execute it yet, but that's a get. Okay. Right. I want to do that in the constructor. Let's just make it not be read only. Okay, cool. So let's see, what if we have a new parameter mass? And we hopefully should have a comma. Cool. Probably want to clean that up with a space though. There you go. And that looks correct. That's great. Prepared statement, got everything we need. Now, hopefully this should be a 204 and we are good to go. It does not. Parameter, named parameter 4 does not have a bound value. Let's see what we got going on here. ID, mass, description. Seems fine. Named parameter 4 does not have a bound value. ID, mass, description. Interesting. What did we, oh, that's why. Those need to be like literals. Oops. We probably need to set types and do some other things. Wait, why is that doing that? Field value set, oh. Ha, just kidding. That was really dumb. That should not be like that. Okay, there we go. Brain fart. Cool. Now this should work. And there we go. 204. That's all we need. We do a get. And our mass 4.5, new description, which it was test before. So, all right, cool. Basically, this is your CQRS. It's not actually using commands, but it is using DTO and these update statements. This is a mess for sure, but you know, if you have some time, you can like clean all that stuff out. And this is just a you know, totally different way to do, you know, Symfony instead of like the traditional CRUD that they push on doing. And like it is really set up to do that, to just use doctrine for everything and not really even use query builder that much, and even use expressions and more abstraction. And I really don't think there's a whole lot wrong with that, but you know, you're going to run into a point where that's not scalable anymore. And for some people, depending on how relationships and other things are built, that's going to be really soon. And for other people, it might be a long time. But when you do get to that point, having a setup like this, that's pretty easy, pretty low modification, is something that really can impact your performance, because you just have, you know, you're doing half as much. DQL is not getting translated to SQL and then getting executed. Just, you know, SQL is getting executed. Nothing's coming back into memory. It's just done. So yeah, I think this is something that maybe they should either implement, or you should just set up on your own and, you know, get it to work. And, you know, there's just, you're going to have a huge performance impact. That's the bottom line. So next time, probably should go over some cool DTO query string stuff, and maybe even get into testing and setting up like PHP Stan or some other things to kind of like round this API out, and get into down the road, we'll get into serialization and relationships as well, because that's super important as well, and most of the time done not very well in my opinion. But I'll catch you guys later.